He's very scary.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have to talk to Cody about Levis though.
Well, guys, hopefully my internet holds up. I just froze out twice, big time, and I haven't done that for months.
Dan's blaming the early beers. He's blaming the internet already for the early beer drops.
Oh my God! Our internet was out for like 12 hours yesterday. Internet, cable, everything.
Got too warm in Minnesota, Dan. Same as up here.
That's pretty much what it was.
But that's what it was.
And we still managed to get our picks in, Dan.
Yes, we did.
Guys, we got a big one tonight. We got to get into it, guys. If you're watching
are we
right
live?
Now, we're live.
We're live in the district.
We're live in the district.
Oh my!
And you guys know how we do it in the district. We bring in the biggest guests. We bring you winning content, and tonight is no difference. We have a special episode for you. We have a huge announcement, and we've got an even huger guest back in the district. We've got the Podfather, Mind the Mansion, the mind behind Player Profiler. Guys, we got so much to get to. Let's just get to it.
Go district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offers the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the district. Like I said, we have a monster show tonight. You see him on the screen. We've got a monster guest. Guys, I mean, Dan, we've been doing this. This was what, Little Pod 2018? Tonight we got some big news. But first, let's back it up. Let's roll in our guests. Let's get the red carpet out. This man is here to share his must-draft flag planting players from this year's rookie draft. Like I said, guys, Mind the Mansion, the Podfather, Matt Kelley. Welcome back to the district, brother.
Oh, always a pleasure, boys. Always a pleasure. JD, I've met Dan in person. Theo and I are now really good friends. And you and I are going to hang, bud.
If
you're going to be in Kansas City at all, we're going to be in Kansas City.
FFPC live drafts, September.
He's coming out. We're forcing him to come out in September.
We took down the Pros versus Joe's main event entry, so I have to go.
Yeah, we got a free entry. The Goat District ran pure last year. We took it to everybody, including you, Chad Schrader, and we're coming back after everybody this year again in the Pros versus Joe's. We're gonna repeat. So, JD, that's gonna be a blast. When Vegas this year drafting that main event, the full crew will be there.
It's going to be a blast, man. And, you know, we've got a nice little following. I got to say, I'm fresh off of vacation. Dan is fresh off of a Twins game today. And you, Dan, and Scott Connor are fresh off of our biggest show on this channel. You guys crushed it last week. Our most views by far on the GOAT District channel. Guys, if you haven't watched that episode, I guarantee you your league mates have. So Dan, Theo sat down with mastermind of Dynasty right now, Mr. Scott Connor, talking about pivot trades, the 101s, the 102s, everything you need to know about rookie drafts, the rookies in this class. And we're going to dive in that tonight. But first, Theo, we have, and Dan and Matt, we have some really big news. You guys that follow us and that have followed us for years now, you know what we bring you. You know what we represent. We've got the FFPC at Partners because we believe in it. Dan and I, for those who don't know, we met through the FFPC. Theo, Andrew, we all met through the FFPC. We believe in the product. We believe in what they offer. And it's no different, guys, with Player Profiler. I'll say it. I tell anyone, the site that's on my web browser the most is definitely the PP. Whether I'm looking up stats, looking whatever it is that I need to do, pulling up reports, it's on there. And I mean, Theo, what better way today to do this than with the man himself?
No, so it was awesome to get to have Matt on the show tonight. We're happy to announce that Goat District is going to be one of the podcast partners with Player Profiler. It's something really exciting that we're doing this year at Player Profiler. We're bringing in some fantastic podcasts. We're going to get a chance to be on the Player Profiler YouTube page once a week, and then we're going to do some really awesome things. I have everybody from the Goat District is participating in the world famous draft kit this year, which is exciting, and we're going to be doing a lot of really exciting things here. It's awesome for me because I get to podcast with you guys, and I'm also podcasting with Matt. I'm podcasting with Billy Muzio, and everything's coming together. But it's very exciting for the Goat District, and it's exciting what we're doing at Player Profiler with these partner podcasts. Matt, anything you want to share about the podcast partnerships?
Yeah, it's been really cool to see how we've developed over many years, a podcast platform that is now very popular, and we've fine-tuned the delivery process for podcasts, the marketing, the promotion process of podcasts, and the listenership is incredibly strong. And when we see that there are particular podcasts that are independent that could somehow use our technology or use our resources in any way, we've started to reach out. Billy and Theo have really spearheaded that initiative because they're like, listen, we know 5 to 10 podcasts that we could help in a couple different areas. Potentially, we reach out to them, and then so far, everyone we've reached out to say, hey, can we help your podcast at all? Can we help to elevate it in some way? Let's talk. Boom, we can do something together. It's been great. So I'm really, really happy. I think that it really is a missing piece. I know that there's a web of high quality independent podcasts like the Goat District that are out there, and we're trying to find ways that people can discover them more easily and find linkages between these podcasts, and that's what we're going to do. And to me, it's a no-brainer. And we have some advertising partners that will help to fund some of the initiatives that these various podcast partners are trying to do, whether it's getting more guests, upgrading the production, whatever we can do. Fantasy football podcast, it was one of the original podcasts. I mean, we go way back. I mean, fantasy footballers are the OG of fantasy podcasting. I remember doing the first podcast on football diehards with Bob Harris, like in 2015, right? Even before that, I was doing a podcast on Blog Talk Radio, the Roto Baller guys, a decade, right? A lot of people are like, oh, wow, podcasts, they're a cool new thing. And some of us in fantasy football are like, we were the originals. I mean, it was like Joe Rogan and a couple people had podcasts, and like a lot where they were fantasy football people. So it just makes sense that we can help each other any way we can. And the Goat District really was one of the reasons why we work so closely now with Theo, in that the work that he's done with you all with the Goat District, that's part of the reason why he's now head of podcasting at Player Profiler. And we're going to be doing more mock drafts. We're going to be doing more like celebrity drafting. We're going to have a whole bunch of people together getting in draft rooms. People like Scott Connor and others, like you talked about, and you guys, and meeting up in Vegas, doing more events. So we're going to be in Kansas City with 13 people we got an Airbnb. We got Theo, a credential. He's now a full-blown NFL media member.
Yes.
See how quickly this is the Goat District. You see this? The Goat District representing at the Super Bowl or the draft.
Sure,
that's what we're talking about here, baby.
Matt, when this whole thing kind of started being presented, there's one name that came to mind, and I know Theo said that you maybe mentioned this. It's Voltron, baby. Voltron.
Yes.
Like just the parts coming together, in the beginning when they're all flying up and you've got the green, the red, the blue, the two arms, the feet, and they just create this huge monster. And I know you already created the monster and the monster is already being created, but we're definitely proud of being a member of that Voltron now. And look, man, we're going to have a lot of fun, like you said, and we're going to put out some serious content.
Yeah, you guys are very popular. And there's just a handful of the best independent podcasts that are out there in fantasy. This is certainly one of them, because the people that are super serious about fantasy or that want sophisticated content, typically they play in Dynasty, typically they play high stakes, and you've got Dan Williamson and you've got JD and you've got Theo on one show. It's like, yes, please.
No, and without a doubt, I mean, the way that you've integrated Theo into those podcasts has been fantastic. And I especially like the fact, Matt, that like the last podcast or two, you've put a couple double moves on him. And
I was thinking the same thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up.
Yes, you're talking about Breece Hall, and you're like, Theo, what do you think? And then, Theo lays it out there, and all of a sudden, the Podfather's putting the double moves on and breaking free and, running for the end zone. And all it takes is just that, that one good pass. So it's appreciate that.
The Breece Hall, I will remain optimistic, and Matt will be grounded and realistic.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. We are a conservative place. Right. We got a reputation of me being a wild man, but when it comes to things like dynasty rankings, we're proudly conservative.
And we've had a number of big time rookie shows, getting ready for this 2023 class in the GOAT District. Matt, maybe you could share a couple of. You've had some just tremendous guests recently on Mind of Mansion. Maybe the Danny Kelley show, Rich Rebar today. Those are some shows that have a lot of weight right now for people trying to get ready for their rookie drafts. Maybe you could talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, Jordan McNamara from Football Guys. I mean, we talked about Scott Connor earlier. These have been the guys we're talking to, and then after the draft, we'll talk to Matt Friedman from Fantasy Pros, and we'll talk to JJ Zacharyson. We're gonna talk to. I have basically a roster of guys that I know will deliver. And then guys that are aspirational, guys I've always wanted to have on, like Jordan McNamara. And very fortunate, right? We're very fortunate that the one thing that I will say about being someone who has done podcasts that have gotten attention that wasn't always positive, right? One of the benefits is it's how you use it. Right. So if you get people's attention in some way, right. And all publicity is not always good publicity. Like, so that I actually disagree with that. But as long as you use that publicity to bring and deliver good content in the long run and deliver for the audience so they trust you. Right. Okay. Hey, this guy was doing some crazy shit that I had to tune into because he was interviewing this guy from Reddit and it was a total shit show. Right. But then I kept subscribed to the podcast. And as it turns out, the next 5 guests were fucking awesome. Then this guy's legit. This guy delivers. But you got to deliver. You can't just do a show that, where people are talking because you're beefing with this other podcast host. That's like a microwaved way to create an audience. You actually have to feed them steak and potatoes mostly, right? And so that's what we do.
You've done that, man. That's the way you just described it is exactly what you've done is I'm sure there's a point anyone listening right now when they first started listening to, we're kind of like, do I like this guy or do I not? But I'm intrigued and I'm going to keep listening. And like you said, the pull, once you got them in, you kept them there. And look, we're some of those guys. So we're pumped about this partnership and all of this. I think we lost Theo. Theo's so excited. His internet's going wonkers. He's upgraded everything in his studio except for the connection, Dan. So is there anything else?
If this happened to him during the Sonic Truth podcast, I would furious. He would never hear the end of it.
You pay him the bigger bucks, man. So that might be that might be why.
I gotta say though, Matt, one of the things that we really got onto early was just trying to find the best guest possible, and that was one of the things that you've been doing for years, and it's so important for podcasts to just find the best people. I mean, you had Chad Schroeder on before anybody knew who he was really, other than people who were in high stakes. I mean, those of us in high stakes, we knew who he was, but I mean, you brought him to the masses, and that's huge, and that's one of the things that we need to be doing as podcasts.
I remember where I was for that. I was in Arizona on a family vacation, and it was scheduled, and I was like, wait a second, I have this show. So I had to bring my microphone. I had to pack up this Blue Yeti microphone. I remember I had to figure out my laptop and how I could keep it plugged in and not have the laptop die on me. This was many years ago. Now it's a lot easier for people to do mobile podcasting, but I was like, this is a big deal, right? To have Chad Schroeder, and I don't know if he'll reschedule. Like I got to do this. Like I got to do this on this dining room table at this Airbnb. I'm gonna make this freaking thing happen. This guy's awesome. Yeah, so I have some guys like RC Fisher comes on.
Yes.
He doesn't do a lot of podcasts. So I'm very proud to have people that don't necessarily have huge social media followings or big public profiles that are good at evaluating or good at playing fantasy football. And then you just have guys that are just total studs, like the guy I had on today, Rich Rebar. I mean, he's just a stud across the board. So.
Well, guys, let's Theo, I know we lost you for a bit. Matt was actually giving a really nice description, just kind of a bit of his path with his pod and kind of how we both nurture, bringing in really big guests and trying to present some of the best players, the best analysts to our audience. And, now we get to do that together. So why don't we get into it, guys? We're talking rookies. We've got some really good topics. Theo, I'll get you to start off. Maybe start on the macro level with Matt, and then we'll narrow it down as we get towards the end there.
Well, Matt, we've talked about this for weeks, but on the Sonic Truth podcast, what's your general sense of this class, as a whole? How do you compare it to the last few years, and how excited are you about the class?
I think that this class was a big trick, and that if you were chasing the first round picks in this class, that you were, feeling pretty suckered. A lot of people that just as a matter of principle that like to trade first round picks when they feel like the value's getting a little heated, a little hot, right? Getting steamed up. As a matter of principle, you just trade them, right? And so a lot of those people don't have 2023 firsts because they were getting steamed up pretty heavy. Now they're very happy. They're very happy because the floor is really fallen out of the building here, especially with the wide receivers. The wide receiver depth is really the what bolsters a class, right? When you can get Justin Jefferson at the 201, right? Justin Jefferson, remember, he was a stud prospect in his own right? He just happened to fall to the 201 because there were all these other stud receivers in that class, and then the class after that, right? So it was like two classes in a row where we were getting superstars. You were having really impressive college quarterbacks, top 15 picks that were falling to the end of the first round in Superflex. Right? Think of where Zach Wilson and Mac Jones were going. They were going at the end of the first round, and these are very strong drafts. Right? 2020 was incredible. Mm-hmm. Right? This isn't that. It just isn't that. And that's partly because we thought Quentin Johnston was going to be more athletic. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. The depth has really been hollowed out of this class. So if you have the 104 through the 112 in single running back or one quarterback leagues, it's not great, right? You're not feeling great about it. That said, I think that the depth is still good. Right? I still think the depth, especially because the running back position is so deep. There's going to be a bunch of guys that break out in round 2, round 3. We can talk about a bunch of these sleeper receivers that I think are interesting, and some of these sleeper running backs that are interesting. So I think if you could go back in time, if you had a time machine to go back, say 6 months or a year, you'd probably be trading your first rounder, right? Because now the game is up, right? The game is up. If you have the 108, you're stuck. Probably could have got more for it months ago, unfortunately. But I think these second and third round picks are always valuable. We're talking on the Sonic Truth show, man. I always, as a matter of principle, just try to claw third rounders. I'm clawing in third rounders. And I was talking to Rich Rebar on my show today, and he mentioned a bunch of receivers he thinks you can get in the third round, and you didn't have to squint too hard to really like them. So I think that's where the strength of this class is. It's the end of the second round. It's the beginning of the third round. And then Theo also likes a bunch of the tight ends in this class too. It's a very strong tight end class. Like, what you want to do is you want to cater to the strengths of the class, right? So this class is very strong with like flankers, Z receivers. So try to get one of the best of the Z receivers in the class. I think that like a guy like Trey Palmer could be one of those guys. He's the fastest, right? And he has a really interesting profile with special teams. And after the transfer, he really broke out big time, and he did well at the Senior Bowl. So there's a nice pocket of players, probably from the pick 15 to pick 30 is a nice pocket. You got a bunch of tight ends in there. You get a bunch of wide receivers in there and a handful of running backs in there that I think are going to deliver, and we'll look back and say, oh, yeah, that was a nice value. Oh, that was a nice value. Oh, that was a nice value. But it's a bummer, man. We had a couple of years in a row where we had nice deep draft classes. Where you were getting at least 3 good quarterbacks in these classes, and this year not so much. But it's not like it's always fake. Always sell the hype on these draft picks. No, we're coming off multiple years of great drafts, super deep drafts. So it's like we're due for a shallow draft anyway.
One player who we talked a little bit about in the pre-show, we've talked about for weeks on the GOAT District and the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast, that could elevate this class with the right landing spot is Jahmyr Gibbs. You have some serious concerns about him, Matt. Maybe you could kind of elaborate on that. Dan's also shared a number of these concerns in the GOAT District. Dan, you could share your thoughts after Matt.
Yeah, there's no debate about Gibbs versus JSN. I remember those debates, and I was just like, waving a hand, like, get out of here. What are you doing? What are we doing here? Like, we have a gift. We have at least one guy that's a no-doubter in Jackson Smith-Njigba. Why are you trying to put him next to a satellite back who has some concerns from his college profile? It's not just the pure weight concerns. It's the inside run efficiency concerns. It's the snap share. It's the opportunity share in the red zone. It's all these were concerns in college. This was not a player that was used in a proper workhorse role. And it's not me running these teams. If it were me, I would want Jahmyr Gibbs. All my running backs would be 200 or less and super fast and explosive. But we know so many of these coaches, they are allergic to 200-pound running backs in major roles unless these guys are insane. You know how insane Austin Eckler is? You know how insane Christian McCaffrey is? Those guys are insane. One guy was a top 10 pick in the draft. The other guy was undrafted, and he's just a psychopath. So, yes, there's going to be an undrafted psychopath and a top 10 pick psychopath at 200 pounds. You're chasing that? You're chasing that with like an Alabama resume? Like, that doesn't strike me as a good idea, right? We have a very inconsistent track record from Alabama running backs, right? The last Alabama running back that had this kind of profile that got steamed up in the second round, you know who he was? Remember his name? Kenyon Drake. I'm not saying he's Kenyon Drake. I'm saying this is something to be aware of. I don't know what Gibbs' snap share would have been if Derrick Henry was on Alabama, right? We have no idea. But the idea that you would even like debate the top wide receiver in the class, the clear and like true top receiver in this class, with a guy that's 200 pounds and has some workload question marks, to me is crazy.
I think that for me with Gibbs, we hate to get too landing spot specific, but if Gibbs lands with a pocket passer that targets the running back and potentially a offensive coordinator that views him more than a committee, I think he could really take off. I just think that it's not a surefire outcome.
But that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem is because of his size, he's so landing spot dependable. Yeah. And you look at historically, guys like Darren Sproles, Dion Lewis, Giovanni Bernard, Duke Johnson, even if they do hit, like what? Sproles gave you what? 2 top 10 seasons. Otherwise, what was he how useful was he in fantasy?
You know how good Darren Sproles was in college?
Oh, God, he was way better than Gibbs.
Darren Sproles was one of the best college running backs of all time. Do you understand that? Do you understand what we're saying, Theo?
I understand.
And that's not even up for dispute. It's like Barry Sanders. He's like
Darren
in
Sproles
that
was
world.
that guy. Was that
as
guy
a college running back?
Dan, you had a sicko comparison for Gibbs, Mr. Nyheim Hines. Maybe you could go into that one.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what his floor is you know, he could be Nyheim Hines. See, the thing is, if I've got the 102, I'm not looking for floor. I'm looking to I want to find that guy that's going to make the 101 regret taking Bijan Robinson, right? And maybe that guy doesn't exist. You know, the odds are 50-50 at least that guy doesn't exist. But at the 102, I want to take the guy who can make that Bijan Robinson drafter say, damn, I missed it. I should have taken Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know, that's, for me, that's the guy. You know, if I can if I can make the 101 regret his pick, it's going to be with JSN. So that's the way I'm going, because Gibbs, you know, you're searching so hard to find the path for him to even be a decent fantasy RB for a couple of years. And you know, why do that? Just go with the obvious. Take JSN because he's the guy. He's the guy who might be able to get you to where the 101 was.
How many landing spots in the deck can beat you? How many hands can beat you? I mean, if you're drafting JSN, very few.
Yes.
Theo?
Right.
No, JSN is as safe as it gets. We have him very high up, not only in our rookie ranks at Player Profiler, but in the Dynasty ranks overall. We very much believe in that profile. And shout out to Scott Kobe in the chat. Looking for a landing spot for JSN, I kind of think JSN is somewhat landing spot proof because his game really correlates to this modern NFL. He can win in the slot immediately. I think you can move him around the offense a little bit more than people give him credit to. I think as a ceiling for him is some offensive coordinator treating him like a Cooper Kupp and targeting the hell out of him, you know, down after down after down. And we look up at the end of the year and JSN has a couple 150 target seasons in him. So I'm pretty much landing spot averse with JSN. I'd rather not have him land on an offense with a younger, you know, alpha. Like if Dallas moved up and grabbed a JSN, that would not be great. But pretty much besides that, I'm landing spot averse for him. How about you, Matt? Is there a landing spot that you'd love to see for JSN?
No, but there's plenty of places I don't want him to go.
Yes.
I mean, how about the entire teens? Okay. I don't want him in the teens. Like the teens is a nightmare. Have you seen the teens?
The teens are choppy, but
it's very bad. It's very bad. The Titans would be very bad. The Jets would not be good. The Patriots is bad. The Packers are bad. Washington is actually interesting because I think he's immediately the best receiver. Pittsburgh would be probably okay, but
what about
great.
Houston if he's paired up with Bryce again?
I think Houston's fine. Houston's at 12, though. If he goes that high, that would be great. But now they're talking about Houston trading up again, using that pick, trade up from 12. So yeah, so I skipped Houston because that's a fine landing spot for him. He's a great landing spot because he's a long-term asset. He's young. You'd love to see him land in Houston. They're going to upgrade the quarterback eventually. So it's like you're circling 12, and then do you want him going to Tampa? Hell no. That's like they're gonna be like Tampa is a nightmare scenario because that is they're going to be rebuilding begrudgingly, and you hate that, right? You hate that. I mean, if he makes it to 22, holy shit.
Not
if he
21?
makes it to 22.
21? No.
Well, there is no 21.
Well,
There's no 21.
21 is the forfeited pick, but if
21
we're
is a
going by-
moron. 21 is Moronville. That's idiot. That's like scumbag city. That's like the guy that's Stephen Ross, being one of the worst people. And Stephen Ross wakes up every day thanking whatever being is out there that he thinks is more important than him, which doesn't exist probably, that Dan Snyder exists. That's what he does. So the 22nd pick is the Los Angeles Chargers. If Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to the Los Angeles Chargers, swing! Holy shit! Right? I mean, Keenan Allen's 30.
Yeah.
Right? We're a year out from Keenan Allen going somewhere else and it being like the Herbert 2 and Jigba show for another 10 years. It would be insane. Right? So it's like we just got to dodge the teens and then we're in the money. This is where I can totally see people losing their mind, where Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison ends up somewhere really sweet, some amazing landing spot, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is somewhere not great. And then it's like, I can totally see it. Minnesota has a glaring need, like the glaring need of glaring needs at number 2 wide receiver. And you go down the board, like Brandon Cooks is a rental. And Gallup's gone, so it's a year. You're a year away in Dallas from having you'd have a sick pairing of whoever they draft. If they draft a wide receiver, Buffalo is desperate for a number 2 that's not Gabriel Davis. I mean, Kansas. Whoever makes it to Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City goes Addison or Kansas City goes Flowers. Oh, wow, that's exciting. So I think it's possible that actually after the draft, there's going to be a slight tightening of the Addison Flowers tier and the JSN, who's in a tier by himself, clear and obvious, way out ahead. There might be some tightening because of landing spot. It's possible. Possible.
Matt, there's a couple of running backs that you've been high on for months. We've discussed a couple of guys who could leapfrog Gibbs. Why don't you talk about a couple of these running backs you're very much into in this draft class?
Yeah, I love this running back class. It's a great running back class. I mean, I was talking to Rich Rebar on the show, as I mentioned, and he said that when he was breaking down Israel Benakenda, that he thought of me because he remembered Tevin Coleman. And I had a whole Tevin Coleman rant, which sort of helped to launch my podcast. And this guy is very much Tevin Coleman. He can't break a tackle, right? But what he can do is he can take whatever runway is afforded to him and optimize the runway, which was Tevin Coleman at Indiana, right? If there was runway, he was gone. If there was nothing, he got nothing. That's Abanikanda. But Abanikanda is potentially, I think, even more explosive than Tevin Coleman. And it's easy to forget because we have Tevin Coleman in a Jets jersey, even Tevin Coleman in a 49ers jersey. Tevin Coleman in a Falcons jersey was electric. Tevin Coleman you were always just hoping that maybe somehow they would feed him that week whenever he was on Atlanta. So I think Abanikanda is very exciting to have a young Tevin Coleman outcome. That would be very cool. Kendre Miller's exciting. Roshan's now getting some steam. I think that the big fake out is Bijan to Dallas when it's actually going to be Roshan to Dallas. Roshan to Dallas makes so much sense, it hurts. It nothing makes more sense in this entire draft than the Dallas Cowboys with the 59th pick in the NFL draft select Roschon Johnson, running back, Texas. I mean, record that. Record that.
It's right there for him. It makes perfect sense.
It's right there. They love him. We know. We've talked to we know people with the Cowboys. We talked to them at the Senior Bowl. That's why we go to the Combine and all these things. We know these guys. They love Roschon in Dallas. Trust me. It makes so much sense.
It's the old Texas Longhorn switcheroo by the Dallas Cowboys.
They sit back. Switcheroo, bro. It's the switcheroo of all the switcheroos. I know what they're doing. I know this is such a Jerry move. This is perfect. It's exactly what you want. You have a touchdown-rich environment. It doesn't necessarily hurt Pollard much. It's just so perfect.
Dan and JD, do you guys have a flag plant running back that's going to go in the first or second round of rookie drafts, or maybe even a little later, somebody you really are into that you want to get a ton of right now?
Go ahead, JD. Take the first shot here.
I mean, I kind of like, you talk about the depth at the running back position. There's about like 4 or 5 guys that have good size that are close to that 6 foot and a bit over, and clearly over the 200 mark, right? We talk about Kendre Miller. You talked about Roschon. We've got Abanikanda, Charbonnet, obviously a little maybe in a higher tier than those guys. But
Charbonnet's up there, yeah.
Depending on where these guys land, these guys all have like that, big play burst. You've got the 3 down possibilities, and you see like a reception evolution with a lot of these guys, meaning every year of their college year, they've taken on more target share and more receptions. So guys like Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Sean Tucker even, which I know is polarizing, but 4.44, 40, 106 speed score, 95th percentile. He seems really durable. So that's a guy, again, in this range where we talk about the depth of the position. If you can get these guys like in the second round, going into the third round of your drafts, and just build depth at a position that we talk about on this channel often, that you want depth at the running back position, this is definitely the draft at. And those are just some of the names. I know, Theo, you've got a guy that you're going to talk about that you really like. I purposely didn't take him.
Well, I have a question for Dan. Dan, do you go Charbonnet over Gibbs?
I mean, potentially, definitely, yes. This is something I've said before on the podcast that I think could definitely happen. The way I look at it right now is this is a little bit of a sharpshooter draft. You've got Bijan, you got JSN at the top, and then after that, it's going to be a sharpshooter draft. And the thing is, the NFL draft landing spots are going to give you the scope for your rifle, so you can figure out where you need to be shooting those shots, right? And so that's why I'm not getting too deep in the weeds on, who am I going to take at the 105? Who am I going to take at the 108? I don't know. I have no idea. What I know is I'm going to let the NFL tell me a little bit more about these prospects, and then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to say, I'm going to take what I know already, and then I'm going to add what the NFL has told me, and now I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that Dan has the correct approach, and Matt and I have talked about that 1-2 turn sweet spot is going to end up being a running back zone for us in our rookie drafts. And I think that there's a few guys that are going to come from that, like, let's call it like the 108 to the 204. It's okay for you to push a running back up that you like into that zone. And it's okay for you to kind of trade back at times and try to double down on these guys. I think that you can, we talked about it with Scott last week, Dan, you could take Gibbs and you could trade down and you could pivot and you could end up with like a Roschon and an A-Chain, or a Roschon and a Spears, and have 2 shots at this running back group, which is a very, very exciting group. I think a few years from now, we're going to look back at this group of running backs and we're going to see Bijan Robinson, who I believe will be at some point the 101 in redraft at some point in his career. I think that the train is leaving the station. I think he's headed to that level of player. I think we're going to have a couple other guys who have a few, RB1 seasons here or there, and we're going to have a lot of RB2 types out of this class, and really beneficial guys to our dynasty teams and our redraft teams. And I want to give a shout out to Cody Carpenter, who spearheaded our tremendous rookie guide at Player Profiler that you can purchase right now. Highly recommend it. But a couple guys that he's got me on right now, I'm getting more and more into Evan Hull. Matt and I discussed him this week. I know, Dan, I know you like him as well. That's the kind of guy that we can get in the third round of rookie drafts. I think he's very, very interesting. And I don't think he's a guy that's going to sneak into the second round. I think he'll be right there at like that 2-3 turn. And then to go deeper, Matt, I'm getting more and more into Aiden Bourget.
I know, yeah, Bourget. Yeah, I know.
Bourget is going to be the guy. You get down to the.
He's this year's Julius Chestnut.
And I think what's interesting is, like, if you go into, I don't want to spoil it because we want you to purchase it, and it's worth your money and worth your time. Go and look at some of the comparisons that we have in the rookie guide for Bourget. It's very impressive. The guy had 35 reps on the bench press. That's an incredible number for a running back. That's an incredible number for pretty much any position.
Yeah, why don't you just stop here and give a bit more info on the draft kick? We kind of slid over that in the beginning, but we did definitely want to bring attention to it. That's a big part of our process going into this offseason. It's a big tool that the player profiler team offers. Why don't you give the details on what's coming up with it?
So we have right now the rookie guide available, which is just tremendous. I'll pass it over to Matt, and Matt can talk about that a little bit. And then we have our draft kit coming out, very shortly. We have the skinny draft kit coming out. We're putting a lot of work into it. Everyone from the GOAT District is doing a cameo selection player-wise, so you get to see JD's flag plant player, Dan's flag plant player. Andrew Schellenberg will come out of the woodwork and drop his flag plant player. And spoiler alert, it's Brandon Ayuk for Andrew, who's not Andrew tonight. So that's going to be tremendous. That's something you can get shortly from us. But right now, go and purchase the rookie guide. It is as good a rookie guide as is available, across any platform right now. It is so in depth. Matt, maybe kind of share your thoughts on how great it is.
It's over 100 players. Cody breaks down 15 quarterbacks, 25 tight ends, just to put it in context. 25 tight ends. In this class, you need to. That's how this is an incredible tight end class. I've heard other classes. I remember so many times I've gone on my podcast and been like, I heard this is a good tight end class. And I'm like, again. No, this is real. This is a real class. And Cody he has stylistic comps. He has the analytical comps. And he really breaks it down. He watches film on all these guys. He goes to the combine. He understands how the NFL scouting industrial complex feels about these players. And he gives them grades, but also fantasy rankings. And then on the site, we have a new NFL draft section, which is really Cody's section. And he has a grade on that player for their position. So one of the highest graded players is Bijan Robinson, but he's not in the top 10 on the big board because you don't draft a running back in the top 10 if you can get a tackle, if you can get an elite edge rusher. You don't do that in the NFL. That doesn't make sense. So it's just he's been proven right over and over and over again. Just in this class, just in how guys are moving in the mock draft world, he's been weeks ahead. His mock drafts are all up there too, and he's been weeks ahead on a bunch of these guys. I mean, you know who's number one on his big board? Can you guess? And this guy's now starting to get talk about being number one on big boards, but he's had him number one for as long as I can remember. Jalen Carter. Mm-hmm. Jalen Carter is a superstar, right? And the interesting thing is, it's all defensive players, like the top three, and then Paris Johnson. Like, if Cody were a GM, he would be killing it. He would be Brad Holmes, right? I mean, he gets positional value, and that there's going to be some of these quarterbacks are going to get steamed up, but I think in Superflex, you're going to want 2024 picks. I know that we said that last year, right? And I think it's still true. I think last year, a lot of the value of the Superflex picks were based around Young and Stroud, and they're going to go 1-2 probably. And the Superflex picks are a lot better. It's really those that are outside the top two in single quarterback that are really struggling right now with if they have multiple first round picks. It's not a good scene. At least this quarterback class is saving the super flexers, right? Where they're also, because of Levis, and in particular Anthony Richardson, they're offsetting and displacing some of these players, so you could actually get really good players at pick 5, 6, 7 in Superflex, which is these handful of quarterbacks. They're saving the draft class, but they're still not as good as the quarterbacks that are coming out in the next draft class. They're just not, because they don't have the size, they don't have the same ability. The guy that I love in this class, and the guy that I think it's a debate. I know that Theo says it's not a debate. I insist it is a debate in Superflex between Stroud and Bijan. I still think it's going to be Stroud, even though I know the betting markets have shifted big time. Anand Nanduri, who has spent time in NFL front offices and with sports books, he believes that there is a risk management mechanics that are going on with the way the lines are set that makes it appear to the public that there's inside information that there's not. And that actually nobody knows if it's going to be, and that a lot of these betting markets, they're just trying to shift these guys around to balance out the pot because nobody knows if it's going to be younger. Of course, remember at this time a couple of years ago, the 49ers, and this is from 49ers' own sources, they were trading up to 3 to get Mac Jones. And at this time, 2 years ago, the pick was Mac Jones at 3. And it was at the 11th hour that Kyle Shanahan convinced himself to go Trey Lance. So anyone that thinks they know what the pick is wrong. That they don't know. You don't know who it's going to be. It could be Stroud. It could be Young. Either of those guys have great value in Superflex, but the guy with the upside, the hidden upside, is Stroud. Stroud could be a Russian quarterback, a sort of a under the radar Konami, at least a tactical scrambler. And with that level of accuracy, and he's not Teddy Bridgewater. He has superior arm strength to Teddy Bridgewater. He has the incredible accuracy. He has the incredible college resume. I think that this guy has top 5 fantasy quarterback in his range of outcomes in the NFL. I think there's real upside with Stroud, and it's a lot more tangible than the upside that you have that's a little more fleeting and a little more of a projection with Richardson. But I think it's a conversation. I don't think in Superflex it's an absolute slam dunk Bijan.
Matt, so if that's your top 3 in Superflex, the top 4, Bryce Young or Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Well, that's the big debate, right? That to me is the debate. To me, it depends on your situation. Like if you're a risk taking person and you really want to swing, I say fuck it, Anthony Richardson. If you want, go ahead. I'm not against it. This guy was actually, pretty well managed in the pocket. It's just that his accuracy rating wasn't as good. It's so hard to find reliable talent in Superflex leagues at the quarterback position. If you have the opportunity to get a quarterback and his floor is as high as CJ Stroud's floor, it's hard to say no. Like, I'm in that situation in some leagues, and it's a real debate. It's not fake. It's a real debate. And so I'm probably going to go Stroud, and I might even go Stroud over Bijan. Right? But it's not easy. Those 3 guys, to me, are the clear top 3 in Superflex. And then the question is, okay, Jackson Smith and Jigba or Bryce Young. I'm probably going Jackson Smith and Jigba because the Bryce Young, the height thing, you have to go back to Drew Brees to find a guy that height. And we've had plenty of guys. Maybe if Manziel or Baker, if one of these guys had worked out recently, maybe I would have a different opinion. It just feels like such a long time. We're now looking at like 23 years since Brees came out. Was that, when was it? Was it 2001? No, maybe it was a little early. Maybe it was, I don't know. Is he the same age as Brady? Something like that.
I think he was like a couple of years. Wasn't he like 2003 or something like that?
I don't remember. It's been at least 20 years.
It's been a long time.
Let's call it 20 years, Dan.
20 years. Easy.
I mean, let's call it 20 years. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
So it's almost like Kenny Pickett's hands got us ready for the size issue in this year's class in a lot of the positions.
I can't do it. And then there's also a conversation between, I think Richardson and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think there's a bunch of different roster constructions. If you feel good about your quarterback situation, or you're like me and you're more conservative, probably going to go Jackson Smith and Jigba even over Anthony Richardson, though the Anthony Richardson ceiling is very enticing. And the reason why is in Superflex, when you see what Hurts and Allen are in Superflex, where their values are, that stratosphere, it's so incredible that I would never argue with anyone chasing that rainbow. Never. I would never do it. It's just that with me, I think that you're getting 75% of that upside with Stroud in a way higher floor.
Dan, your top 4 right now in Superflex?
Oh, man.
Not Gibbs.
Not Gibbs. Yeah. No, I want to go back to a couple things that Matt was talking about. First off, one of the things I think Matt has done very, very well, especially over the last few years, is bringing in the right people. And Cody Carpenter is one of those people. I mean, what a fantastic guy. He is so he loves his job and he's super good at it. And that's what you want to see. I mean, when I'm out there looking for, who are the brightest minds in fantasy, this is one of the guys that I'm looking at is Cody. Josh Larkey that you had with you last year, absolutely fantastic mind, and it sucks to lose people, Matt. I mean, and I know it does, but that's also a sign that you're hiring the right people. When you hire somebody like that and they move on to something even better, that's great. But I mean, you've got Cody, you've got Theo, you've got Billy, you've got some great talent, and that's what makes Player Profiler the number one up and coming site in my opinion. Man. So anyway, that out of the way, I'm gonna go with my top 4. I gotta say Bijan. I gotta say I gotta go with you on CJ Stroud. I think he's probably number 2. I'd put Anthony Richardson at number 3, but Stroud, I mean, I think you can kind of in a way comp him to Aaron Rodgers. He's just got enough of that rushing. Aaron Rodgers was never a running quarterback, but he could run when he needed to. He's got that insane accuracy. I mean, if Stroud, obviously that's a top 10% outcome for Stroud, top 5% maybe.
Yeah, he could also be Mariota. We know that.
Right, exactly. But that's what you want to reach for. And then Richardson, I think he's got to be in that top 4. And then JSN, I think he's the other one in the top 4, right there.
All right, hey, you guys are gonna have to beat Dan and I are in lockstep. Oh man, Theo's in trouble. JD, I don't know what you got, but you got to come hard.
But guys, let's face it, that's what makes this fun, right? This year it will be fun because you can kind of maneuver your drafts if you're not committed to one guy or you necessarily have a specific situation like we're talking about. And I think a lot of that will depend on these first 4 picks. Is what situation you're in. You're playing in high stakes leagues, paying $5, $750, $1,250 into a league. Do you have the capacity to wait for Anthony Richards to hit in your Superflex team, in your Triflex team? Do you have the team ready for a Bijan Robinson? Yeah, he's valuable and he'll have value. And yeah, you draft him, maybe you can trade him, but you never draft to trade. That's one thing I've learned. You never draft to trade. Maybe that's part of your plans. But to me, a lot of this has to do with which premium league are you in? Is it tight end premium? Is it Superflex? For me, from day one, Superflex, CJ Stroud has been my 101. The accuracy, the calmness, I think of maybe it's an extreme, but like a Joe Burrow is like a really good outcome for him, clearly. But if that is if that's a possible outcome in a Superflex league, give me CJ Stroud, give me Bijan number 2. And then I'm sorry, but you have to go with the quarterbacks. As much as I love JSN, love JSN, and I'm going to get him in a Triflex with the picks that I have. you got to go, in my opinion, with Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. And again, when you're choosing between those two, what position are you in? Are you looking for a QB2 or QB3? Or are you looking, do you have your top 2 or 3 QBs and now you're just looking for upside?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a great point. I also want one more point I think is very important that I've heard from some people I think is important to note. If you are not competing this year, I would be reticent to go with Bijan. Don't forget that the greatest example was Saquon Barkley. Okay, imagine you're a rebuilding team, and you're like, I'm not going to compete this year. Remember, the Saquon Barkley draft was deep. That's another deep one, right? Was that 2017? Nick Chubb. Oh my God, there was so many players. There was a bunch of busts. I mean, there were some landmines, right? You had to get your scope out, like Dan was saying, like you had to avoid like Ronald Jones. So, thankfully, we did. What a catastrophe.
Carry on, Johnson.
Oh, carry on.
Oh
Johnson.
man,
Oh, wow.
that one hurts, Dan.
He looked sexy on your roster, though. You got to admit.
The fortunate thing with a guy like Sony Michel is Sony Michel actually retained some value for a while. You could flip him and still get out alive. With Jones and Carry-On, you were dead.
Yes.
But, oh my God. But there was some great, oh my God, Darius Geis. Well, yeah, anyway, it was still a good class. Believe me, it was still a good class. Rashad Penny, oh no.
Sony Michel.
I know it was, but it was.
This is what happens to the running backs. So I mean, this is
on paper.
This is your red
class.
flag on this draft class. When you've got a class that's relying on the running backs, this is why you should be treading cautiously, because running backs there's so many different ways that they can fail. You know, you got to get the right guy in the right situation, and you know if all that happens, it's great. But yeah, there's a lot of ways for running backs to just absolutely self-immolate.
They could self-destruct button very quickly.
Yep.
That's exactly right. But if you drafted Saquon and you were rebuilding, that was a catastrophic error, because here's what happened, right? He had his career year in the 1 year that you weren't going to be competitive, and then he was so good that year that it actually hurt your ability to get a high draft pick the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a double whammy. You cannot do this. If there's any way that you can trade out of that Bijan, if you're rebuilding, and get a 2024 first, get some young players, a young receiver you can build around, that's the move, right? Like, Theo, what are we talking about? We're talking about like a Devontae Smith, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 2024 first.
Yeah,
try to do something like that if you're rebuilding, because if you waste his rookie year, that's a big waste, considering they have like 3 great years before their age apex.
And just for FFPC listeners, which we have a ton of them, you could turn Bijan Robinson into Jackson Smith and Jigba. You could go down to the 102 and pick up a 2024 first from a ton of FFPC managers.
That's
and probably get a second on top.
That's the move.
And end up with Michael Mayer or one of these tight ends you love for FFPC.
Okay.
You could turn it all into it.
If you're rebuilding, you have to try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the worst thing that Barkley did for you. Let's say you were a rebuilding team. You drafted him in your first year. You know, okay, I'm going to rebuild. And you drafted Saquon. And, you know, he has that season in his rookie year. And you're like, oh, my God.
Oh,
my God.
I'm all in.
Yes, I've struck gold. And you know what? There's no way in hell you were going to trade him away. No way in hell you're trading him away. Oh. And then what happens? Right when you're ready to start competing, you're like, oh, I got my RB1. This guy's going to be the guy forever. And he absolutely shafts you.
You know what it's like? Hold on, Theo. Just one sec. You know what it's like? It's like in the NFL with quarterbacks. It's running backs in fantasy, in Dynasty, are like quarterbacks in the real NFL, in that they're really the antenna you want to bring at the final piece of construction to put on top of the tower. Once you've got your base, then you can add your running backs at the end.
Otherwise, they're scoring you points you don't need, and they're bringing you into that middle gap.
Exactly.
That you just
Where
don't
with the
want to be in the
NFL, you want to get your left tackle. You want to do what the Lions are doing, and get Sewell. Like, you want to build the base, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown. You want to get that together. Once the team is ready and you want that to start the clock on that 4 to 5 year window of a quarterback on his rookie deal, then you say engage, right?
It's the
Start
Voltron,
the clock.
the Voltron, Matt. You bring in
Right.
the final
So
piece on the Voltron.
if you're a couple of years too early stocking up on running backs, you're only going to hurt yourself, and you're going to basically probably going to be a big false start for your team.
Matt, we have a lot of FFPC listeners. I want to go around the horn here. Give me 2 tight ends that you're excited about in this draft class. Certainly, I bet I could guess your tight end 1, but it's hard to pick people's tight end 2s. So why don't you go ahead and tell us 2 guys you're really excited about from this tight end spot?
I have to admit that I'm not a tight end drafter. I'm just not a big tight end guy.
Why we love you, Matt. This is why we love you.
Begrudgingly a tight end drafter this year.
I know, I know, because we love the FFPC, man. I love tight end premium. So we have new tight end premium rankings on Player Profiler that Theo and Billy have put together with Dario, and they're for the FFPC specifically. I love the FFPC. My guy is Luke Musgrave. Okay, and I love the fact that he wasn't that productive, right? So he's got that sort of Dawson Knox dominator rating, but he's the real thing. He's 6'6", he's 255, where you have a lot of move tight ends, and these move tight ends, they do inspire fantasy gamers. They love talking about how these guys would be great in the slot. Oh, they will talk about how these guys are so good in the slot. Musgrave is going to be a full-time starter in a real way. He's a two-way tight end, a proper two-way tight end. He has the athletic profile with the size that we're looking for. He was the 3rd best size-adjusted athlete in this class and one of the top all-time. I mean, at the position, he's 15th all-time. I mean, this is a very athletic tight end class. Right, so we have 3 of the top 15 most athletic tight ends all time are in this draft class. Musgrave happens to be one of them. College production is not necessarily predictive of NFL production. There's a bunch of reasons why, including I don't know, only playing 2 games that we have no idea what this. But in those 2 games, he had 170 yards in 2 games. It's not like he was at a small school. It wasn't like a Dallas Goedert situation. The guy was at Oregon State. So, I mean, this is what you want. This is where you get hidden value, where the guy's had, 22 games in his college career, super unlucky with injuries. That's the move right there. That's my guy.
Where do you want him, Matt?
Well, I mean, I actually, like I said, I rarely draft tight ends, but this is the guy I was thinking in the 3rd round. We had way back at the beginning of the show. I was like, the 3rd round's very interesting. And I was thinking of Trey Palmer. I was thinking of Luke Musgrave. Those are just 2 of the guys that came to mind. And then there's also the running back from Louisville. Have you seen this guy?
That's another Cody Carpenter favorite. Maybe talk a little about Tion Evans, Matt.
Yeah, Tion Evans is interesting too. This is another 3rd, 4th round guy where it's like, wait a second, this guy's 21. This guy's 225 pounds. This guy has a 90th percentile speed score. Where the hell did this guy come from? So he's cool. Like, he's a cool player. And Cody says he loves his work ethic and loves his whole vibe. So that's very he's very interesting. So
Evans
he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he might creep in. Cody's been so ahead on guys like Mingo, Roshan, and Tion Evans. Tion Evans, there's a little bit of steam that he might creep into the 3rd round in the NFL draft.
What?
But he might creep up from
Does he do this?
I'm not trying
Dan
to blow
and JD. Does he do this to you? Does he always have 33 running backs going in every round?
the hype train, Matt. The historical hype train in the GOAT District. The only player I've stand hard for has been Pat Fryermuth on this podcast. That's my stand guy for the years.
Oh, that's a good player.
Theo was definitely a muse guy.
That is church right there.
We have a ton of Muth. We really hit that one really hard. But I love your call of Musgrave. I think that's exactly the kind of profile you want to hit in the 3rd round.
Yes.
I'll go with one of my guys. On Player Profiler, we have picked our guys for the season, and I've flag planted Dalton Kincaid. I think that Michael Mayer is the tight end 1 in this class, but I think he's going to cost you an awful lot. I think Kincaid is insulated value-wise where he's going to be able to get him a little bit later than Michael Mayer. And I think when it comes to fantasy, I think Kincaid, like Matt's talking about us guys talking about move tight ends and getting excited about it. This is my move tight end that I'm really, really excited about. We got the clean bill of health for Kincaid.
Yes.
We had some health concerns. That was huge for him. You're talking about a guy who went from University of San Diego, transferred up to the Pac-12, had 70 receptions at Utah, and he's got tremendous body control. He catches everything.
This is Freiermuth 2.0.
This is a big one. So Kincaid is the guy that I think has potentially the best fantasy outcome of any tight end in this class. Mayer is going to be a guy who's on the field a ton. Mayer's a tremendous blocker. He's a clean tight end prospect. I don't know if top 5 tight end seasons is in Mayer's future, but I think he'll be a useful player. Kincaid's the guy. Kincaid could be, multiple top 5 tight end finishes in his career. I'm very, very excited about him.
How do you feel about it, Mel Kiper sending him to Green Bay, Theo?
We've talked about this, like Kincaid, Washington, and Green Bay. Those are 2 spots to really watch for him. And then we talked about the Chargers. Those 3 spots are in play.
Oh,
and
Jesus Christ.
He might,
good one.
Chargers might take a tight end. I think they'll probably go wide receiver like you do. But I think that, Kincaid, he might be the first tight end drafted. But I still think that Mayer, as long as he goes in the 1st round, there's been such hype behind him, for a few years now. He's got people have like a little bit of Debbie Takelock. Like, I think Mayer's a very good player. Dan's compared him to Hunter Henry, and I think that that's like a positive comparison. But like the extreme outcome's not there for him. I think
Unless your name
Kincaid.
is Andrew.
Unless your name is Andrew, and then that's his least favorite player.
That was the double-edged sword I was looking for right there. One that would cut Andrew deep, as well as kind of outline what the positive scenario was for Mayer. But he's the guy he's not going to hit you the 3-run home run. He's the guy who's going to advance the runner. I mean, if you're looking for a tight end, you got to have a guy who's going to be productive, reasonably productive in his first year and probably do pretty well for you, through his career, but never really excite you. That's going to be Mayer. I'm looking for whoever out of like Kincaid, Washington, Musgrave, Laporta, Tucker Kraft, whichever one of them drops, that's the guy that I want. I'm not going to worry about all the other stuff because tight end it's such a crapshoot. It's so hard to find that guy who's going to be the George Kittle or the Mark Andrews or whatever. You want that.
The top 8 tight ends in this class are as good as I've ever seen.
Right, exactly. So you just whoever drops, you take him. A lot of times, in Dynasty, if you've got that roster, it's just trash. You can sit there and you can fill it with tight ends. You can fill it with whatever you want to. That's fine. But if you've got a roster where you go, I've really only got 2 or 3 guys that are probably going to make it into next year with me, then I don't want to spend it on a Michael Mayer. I would rather spend it on a Sam Laporta or a Tucker Kraft or somebody like that who's going to cost me less. And if he makes the cut, he makes the cut. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. And that's fine.
Dan knows things, man. He gets it.
Tucker Kraft is also a Cody Carpenter guy and a friend of the GOAT District, John Law. Both of those guys have comped him to Dallas Goedert. Just shows the depth of this tight end class that, Kraft is not pretty much in anybody's top 3 right now. And we're getting Dallas Goedert comparisons. JD,
Dallas Goedert was the last time I drafted a tight end in a rookie draft.
See,
you ran pure on Dallas Goedert for years, man. He's big time Dallas Goedert love in Player Profiler.
You should just retire from drafting tight ends.
I'm not locked into any hey man, if you're gonna have an awesome tight end class and the other classes are gonna be a little squirrely, then I'm going to be drafting tight ends. I'm not this is not like a doctrine that I have. It's just, it's usually what's in front of me. I'm just going to take what's in front of me.
Yes.
JD,
I remember a couple of years ago, I was like, Kenny Gainwell in the third round. Like, who are you taking in the third round, right? Like, that's the question. Like, it's probably not a tight end. It's usually a guy like that I'm gonna be pushing the button on. I remember that I've made mistakes, right? I remember taking Nico Collins over Khalil Herbert. That was a mistake, and I remember it was between those two, and fucking Rich Rebar took Herbert right after I took Nico, and I was like, you know what? God damn it.
Khalil, the real deal.
I knew it. Just because it's a numbers game with running backs. Usually, I like to have multiple third rounders, multiple second rounders, and then like maybe 3 out of the 4 are running backs. I'm going to hit on one. That's the math.
JD loves
right?
anytime a guest talks about Khalil Herbert. JD gets really excited.
I get really excited.
Well, Herbert's got to dodge the running backs in this class. That's all he's got left.
That's why he's the
right.
real
So
deal.
it's like, so what we got? We got Theo. Theo's got Theo's got the Atlanta, and JD's got Chicago that he's paying very close attention to. So we got Algier and we got Herbert. The probability that one of those guys doesn't see a first, second, or third round running back drafted by their team, I think it's like 50%. Mm-hmm. I think one of you is going to be very happy.
It'll be interesting. I do think that's the donkey move. Is I think Atlanta goes for Bijan, and they take Bijan in the top 10 right there.
Talk about a team not ready.
Tight end, wide receiver, running back, and you get Bijan Robinson literally running to the ground. And
Can I tell you how happy I am? Every time I think forward and project ahead what the draft is going to be like when we're live doing the draft show, when that happens and I lose my fucking mind, it makes me so happy. It's going to happen. It happens every year, but I'm so excited for that to happen. I'm going to lose it at least once or twice. I remember when I think it was when New Orleans traded their 2023 first to move up to get Olave, and I was like, given their team situation, it was one of the dumbest good picks of all time. I mean, find me a better dumb good pick, because Olave was great. We loved Olave, but for them there, it was such a bad trade, horrific. And I was just tilting. I was like, I can't believe a team would be this dumb, because then it makes me doubt myself. I'm like, what am I missing? Like, how do is there something I'm missing with this? Because this is one of the dumbest things ever. What's wrong with my thinking that I'm like, it makes me self-doubt. Sometimes they're so dumb it makes me doubt myself.
You could never put it past them, Matt. It's every year we get these stupid picks. Every year.
You start assuming rational decision making by front offices, and you lead yourself down a path of major hurt.
Disappointment.
Yes.
Pure disappointment.
JD, we're at $1.15. Flag plan a tight end for us.
You guys know I don't draft them. My team with Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. I mean, Matt talks about adding the last. Adam talk about adding that last piece to Voltron. To me, in tight end premium, I'll go out and get the studs that are proven. I'm not going to wait around with these guys on my bench, especially with shallow benches like the FFPC.
He's not even going to answer.
Having said that, I will take a swing for the fences, a home run. I'm trying to hit with Darnell Washington. If I'm going to take one and sit on him, this guy's a beast. 264, 6'7", runs a 4.64. My phone's going off. That's how crazy this guy is. I mean, the upside this guy offers, you don't necessarily have the production that you're looking for. But if this guy ends up in the right place, I know Kuiper's got him going to, I think it was New Orleans at 40. Not that that's exciting, but at least Troutman's, dreams are crushed. I like the upside that Darnell Washington, we know that the tight end position takes time to learn. We see these guys take time to build. Why not put your chip on, 40-1 or whatever the odds are with him?
Another very exciting, potentially third round guy for us in rookie drafts. Matt, this was awesome tonight. You gave us, an hour and 15 of your time. why don't you tell us where everybody can find you and what you've got coming up?
At fantasy_mansion on Twitter. Player Profiler is the website, and we've seen it on the show, which was really cool. And we've got live shows coming up at the draft. So we've got the Airbnb is secured. I have just recently booked the 15-man shuttle. I've got a shuttle bus. I'm renting a bus, which was really, it's like a Chevy 15-person passenger van.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, you know,
I have a deep water operator license for boating. I don't have I don't think you need a special license to drive a 15-person passenger van.
You're safe at 15.
I'm a very good driver. I grew up on a farm. I can back a hay trailer into a barn, so I can probably drive this van just fine.
Insert short bus joke here.
So I am very all the pieces are in place for Kansas City. We're gonna have some barbecue. We're gonna go to we're gonna go get a big brisket, and we're feeding 15 guys. We got content all over the place. We got 5 credentials for the draft, interviews that we're gonna be doing. It's gonna be very exciting. So just and you can start to see the GOAT District. Go to YouTube and type in Player Profiler. That's the move.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. That is the move. Right. And that's where you're going to find us with guys like Theo. I mean, when do you turn on YouTube and not see Theo these days, which is awesome. Like Dan said, we love how he's been intertwined. And now we've partnered up. This is going to be fun, guys. We're really excited. Guys, go check out Player Profiler. Go check out the draft kit. If you don't have the all-in package right now on Player Profiler, you're definitely missing out. Kind of like last week's episode on our channel. Your league mates have seen it. It's the same thing with the draft kit. You can guarantee they're using it. You can guarantee they've got it as a tool. You want to be the Ferrari in your league, the Porsche. You don't want to be the Hyundai. And that's what these tools are helping you do.
And JD, if you want, we'll give a little tidbit for the listeners tonight.
Do it.
If you use the code word Theo, we're going to take $10 off of the all-in package.
There, guys. I mean, how much more do you want right there?
Code Theo.
Get 10% off. I mean, if my math is right, that's a slick $20 right there that Theo and that slick hairdo's giving you.
Exponential growth with the money you put into it for the all-in package, guys, because we're bringing sharp content all year. It's going to be a huge year for the GOAT District. It's going to be a huge year for Player Profiler. Tomorrow, please tune in. First Class Fantasy. I'm back on with Billy Muzio at a special time, 2:30. We have Mike Leone of Establish the Run. And then, JD, we have a fun one tomorrow night as well with Sam Sherman of Ship Chasing and ADP Chasing. Also a contributor to the world-famous draft kit this offseason. We're going to be talking a little best ball tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be balling. And hopefully you guys are balling right now and you enjoyed this show. We enjoyed you joining us. Matt, always appreciate you. Guys, we'll check you all later.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Fun one tonight, fellas. That was good.
That was a beauty. That was fun.
Thanks,
Appreciate
fellas.
you, Matt.
That was great. Dan, your top 4 in Superflex. Couldn't be better.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Yeah. You and I were right in lockstep on that one. That was perfect.
That was so cool. I was
I-
like,
I don't
what
want
is
it to
this?
be
I was
chalk,
like,
though.
what is he gonna say?
I don't want the top 4 to be chalk. I mean, how boring is that going to
I
be?
know
Oh,
the
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
man. I was
It's
happy.
not-
Dan
it's-
knows things, so I was
it's
very
not-
happy to hear that.
It's not. It's I agreed. I don't think it's going to be chalk, but I think it's a great conversation of JSN. If your team can support it, JSN
Yep.
is
Bryce,
going
people are gonna have Bryce Young higher, so we'll take it.
I got an interesting one really quick for you guys because you guys all play Triflex. I've got the 5 and the 6 in the Triflex and the 9, and I'm QB needy. So I can go like, Gibbs with JSN. I can go JSN with Addison. I can go Levy. It's like such a tricky spot when your needs, you're just not contending. That's basically, I'm not content.
What about like grabbing a Kirk Cousins or something like that? Just trade the pick.
pivot it out.
Pivot it
You can
out.
pivot out.
Pivot out from one of the early ones? With the 5 or the 6?
I think that might be the try to pivot out that 108. You see what you can do with that first, and then figure
I've been
it out
trying to
from
move
there.
that 109, man. People don't want it.
People don't want that 109 right now.
Oh, 109, whatever it is. Yeah,
It's like a hot
yeah.
potato.
Get the
it's tough.
short-term bump. Short-term bump, JD. After the draft, people want the 109 more. It's just human nature.
True.
Well,
Something's gonna
landing
happen.
spot will boost
Yeah.
a couple guys.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. But if not, basically with picks like that, there's 2 ways you can go. You can either pivot out, or you can, if you think you can be a sniper, be a sniper. But other than that, I'd just trade down from like the 109. I'd try to get the like 202 and 206 or something like that. Just
Get a couple bullets.
Just get a couple shots rather than one.
You can do it. All right, boys. See ya.
Have a
All
good
right,
night. Take care.
You're awesome,
All
buddy.
right,
We'll see
thanks,
you soon.
man.
That was fun.